many learning disabled children will talk like this. You'll say to them, what did you do after school today, Bruce? Well, we went to, what's his name? He's big, and his father has a big, and he used to play, well, he always wears, Mike. And then we got, we went in a big, it wasn't really like it wasn't like a school, I mean, it was big, but it was kind of, like a minivan. And we played, it was kind of, well, it wasn't really, it was kind of like baseball. Well, no, because there were no bats. And you're thinking, you think, why did I ask you this? I don't need all this information, because many learning disabled children suffer from something called dysnomia. Dysnomia is a word-finding problem. It's that word in the tip of your tongue phenomenon that we all have 4 or 5 times a day. Happens to the LD kid hundreds of times a day. In order to understand this, we have to understand a little bit about how the brain works. The human brain has 2 functions. One is storage, and the other is retrieval. It's an amazing system, an absolutely amazing system. Right now, for instance, I have millions of pieces of information in my storage system. I know my wife's maiden name, I know my kids' birthdays, I know my social security number, I know my home address, my phone number, my zip code, I know who does the CBS Evening News. And if Jody comes up to me and says, Rick, what's your zip code? My retrieval system runs into storage, takes out the card that says 06831, I give Jody my zip code, and then it goes back in the same place until I need it again. It's a wonderful system when it works. But what happens with learning disabled children is that there is a problem between storage and retrieval. They can't get the information out. And many times they will get it out, use it, and then put it back in the wrong place. So when they need it again, retrieval goes into storage and they can't find the word they're looking for. You see, everything that you do in your life is one of 2 kinds of activities. Everything you do in your life is either an associative task or a cognitive task. Now, what is the difference between these 2? You can only do one cognitive thing at a time, but you can do 2 or more associative things at a time. Because you can drive, which is associative, and talk, which is associative at the same time. So you're driving, associative, you pick up your kids at school, you've got your 3 children in the back seat, you're driving associative, talking associative, driving associative, talking associative. Suddenly the hailstones start to come, the road's getting slippery, your car's getting difficult to control, the cars in front of you beginning to swerve, and you turn and say what to the kids? Not shut up. God, I'm a parent. I'm a father. I've got 3 children. You don't say shut up to your children. Of course not. You turn to the children and you say, children. You say children driving, which had previously been an associative experience. Isn't that what you do? No, you say, shut up, I've got to drive here, okay? In other words, you can only do one cognitive thing at a time. For children with dysnomia, speaking is not an associative process, it's a cognitive process. And they can only do that. Imagine the difficulty this presents for a child who's trying to take notes, who's trying to listen and write at the same time. With all the wonderful study skills programs that are out there, we have to buy into the fact that there are some children who will never be able to take notes because listening for them is a cognitive experience, and they can't do 2 things at one time. So what you're going to do now, for the first time in a very long time, you're going to get the opportunity to see what it's like to be dysnomic and to have speaking be a cognitive experience. Because here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell a round-robin story around the room. I'm going to give a sentence. I'm going to call on other people to give sentences. They're going to give sentences, and I want nice, long sentences, and I want each sentence related to the sentence in front of it, so it tells a good story all the way around the room. Let's begin with Kelly. I'll start. The boys went to the beach on a sunny day. Go ahead, Kelly.
And they made sand castles and drank soda and
watched the waves. It's not a novel, Kelly. Just a sentence would be fine. Karen? Go ahead, Karen.
It started to rain and they went home.
Okay, now they're going home. Okay, Karen?
When they got home, they were so bored they had to go out and get a video.
Okay, Lee. Now they've got a video.
They sat in front of the TV and ate a snack.
Okay, Maria?
The video machine wrote and because
okay, Tom.
So then they took the machine back to the video store to get it fixed.
And
then they got there and the store was closed.
Okay, this is getting exciting. Okay, now now see, speaking, we just did that activity where speaking was an associative task for you. Was that difficult? Not particularly, no. But now let's make it cognitive. Now what I'm going to do is make you go through what learning disabled children with dysnomia go through. Now I'm going to make the English language a cognitive experience for you, because now we're going to do the same thing, except I'm going to add another rule. And that is that you can't use any words that contain the letter N. Not just begin with the letter N, but contain the letter N. What you're going to have to do, if you think this is worst case scenario, I'm making it worse than it really is, listen to the way you sound. You're going to sound just like learning disabled children, because you're going through the same experience they go through. Because what I'm doing is I'm making it such that your retrieval system goes into storage but can't find the words you want. Then we'll find words and realize you can't use them. We'll get stuck in phrases that you can't finish. You're going to go through what LD kids go through. Now, I want everyone nice and loud. Again, good sentences, long sentences. Don't start thinking of sentences now, because they've got to be related to the sentence in front of it. No generic sentences, okay? Here we go. The boys went to the beach on a sunny day. Lee.
They ate trees.
They ate?
Trees.
They ate trees?
Trees!
Trees. They ate treats.
Treats.
Stephanie. Now they're eating. Remember, 2 lessons here.
The treats had
Quickly,
a
Stephanie.
lot
Quickly.
of sugar.
The treats had a lot of sugar. Yeah.
After they ate, they swam.
Jane. Remember, 2 lessons in this activity.
Water was very warm.
Okay, now quickly, let's go. Tom?
Water.
Quickly.
fell.
Here's a teaching tip, by the way, for you teachers. If an LD child is having trouble thinking of a word, snap your fingers, tap your feet, and remind them that everyone's waiting. That really helps. Come on, Tom, let's go.
Water fell from the sky.
Water fell from the sky. And. Remember, we have 2 lessons here. And. Nice and loud.
As the water fell from the sky.
Go ahead, Ann.
The water became deeper.
Okay? Rita.
They went home.
I'm sorry, Rita.
They went home.
Okay, class. Okay, remember I told you there were going to be 2 lessons? We just had our first one. I may believe I didn't hear the N in the word went. Raise your hand, please, if you turned Rita in. Raise your hands. Everybody, hands up, up. Maria, up, up. Let's take a look at this. You people have been learning disabled for 1 hour. You've already begun to develop one of the most unattractive traits that people complain about learning disabled kids. So many times parents and teachers will say to me, if he minded his own business as well as he minds everybody else's, he'd be fine. If anyone at home makes a mistake, he's the first one to call it to everyone's attention. Is that true for the LD kids you work with? You bet it is. Because if you take a bright person and you make it such that they can't learn, it becomes an obsession with them to convince themselves and everyone else that they're not the only ones that make mistakes. So there are 2 lessons here. One is that you are very quick to turn each other in after 1 hour of a learning disability. But the second is, how difficult is it to talk this way? It's very difficult. Let's keep it going. Carol, now where did you have them? Well, let them go home, Carol. Now they're home. Go ahead.
They were tired, so they went to... Sorry.
Steve, Karen went after you again. Detention for Karen after school today. Okay, the second point of this activity is how difficult is it to talk this way? It is very difficult. Can you imagine the anxiety of a learning disabled child? What could I have given you that would have made this easier? What could I have given you? Time. What if I gave you time? What if I said, I want a group of you to sit here for a half hour, take a piece of paper, and write a story about boys at the beach, but you can't use any ends? Could you have done that? Yes. Yeah. You could have done that. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give the LD child is a gift of time, both as parents and as teachers. As teachers, we do this. Lee is my LD child in the class, and we say, I want everyone to think of the causes for the Civil War. Everyone think of the 5 causes for the Civil War. While you're thinking of that, I've got to erase the blackboard. So I erase the blackboard. What I'm doing is I'm giving Lee 4 or 5 seconds to come up with some answers. And then I turn and I say, okay, 5 causes of the Civil War. Lee, please give us 1. And Lee says,
The difference between urban and agrarian society.
Terrific. Genius. Not bad. So Lee gives me her answer. I've given Lee some time to process. And secondly, I called on her first. Because you see, she's only probably come up with 1 or 2 answers, where everybody else has come up with all 5. So I call on Lee first. As I said, sometimes the greatest gift you can give children is a gift of time.